Thank you. And coming at the fag end of the day, I hope this is not too boring. And within 7 minutes is quite a tall task to cover these two sides of the problem. So, if you look at the evolution of digital care delivery, there are a whole lot of things that you see are evolving into the digital field. Medicine and digital medicine has become pretty much commonplace now. And COVID tended to push it. What we thought was a 5 to 10 years or 10 to 15 years evolution has suddenly become within 3 years, 4 years, it has evolved. But if you see the hype curve for the digital care delivery, any of the technologies which use precision medicine or AI in healthcare, they are still on the innovation trigger, still not at the peak of inflated expectations and well away from the plateau of productivity. So over the years, this hasn't really changed. So this is the 2021 curve. Now, here also, if you look at most of the artificial intelligence applications, they are still on the rising expectations peak. We are nowhere near reaching it here. On the extreme right, into where the slope of productivity comes, none of the artificial intelligence based applications are going to reach there in the near future, not even a chatbot, which is still on the slope of inflated expectations. On the 2022 hype curve from Gartner of real-time health technologies, we aren't seeing anything any better. It's still the same. So what exactly is artificial intelligence? In computer science, it's sometimes called machine intelligence. It's intelligence demonstrated by machines or so-called intelligence demonstrated by machines, in contrast to what we call as human intelligence. Effectively, it is intelligence that we impart to the machines, in my own words, but mostly it is colloquially, it has been called machine intelligence or cognitive functions. But what exactly it is? It's any device that perceives its environment, takes actions that maximizes its chance of successfully achieving its goals. What we see use mostly today is narrow AI, and not, we're still not reached general or strong AI is AI which can think for itself. We haven't reached that phase at all. Mostly it is machine learning, that is trained devices. So this has a whole lot of spectrum that it's covered under this broad, non-specific term of artificial intelligence. But what I really prefer to use with surgery is augmented intelligence. This is intelligence from machines that is going to augment our intelligence, not substitute for our intelligence. Therefore, augmented intelligence. It includes machine learning, which is supervised learning, wherein you give some training data sets, and then that training data sets is used to train the model. And beyond that, then you use a test data set to validate whether it is working or not as per your hypothesis. And finally, you apply it to an unknown data set. So that is supervised learning. Sometimes you may use unsupervised learning, that is typically what is called deep learning, where the model is given a set of parameters, it learns for itself, classifies for itself, and comes out with an output by itself. And what lies in between is semi-supervised learning. Now, there are other methods too, like transfer learning. But then as the field grows, one doesn't really need coding skills. Much of these models come inbuilt into programs like Python, and you can use those ready libraries to actually do it. So one doesn't need to be a computer programmer to practice deep learning or to practice artificial intelligence. Other areas include natural language processing, expert systems, computer vision, which we are quite familiar with now, especially those who are photographers amongst us. We must be using tools like, there's a tool which has completely revolutionized my photography. It's called Denoise AI. I just put a picture into it, which I had taken in 2003, and it looks as fresh as I had taken it yesterday with my latest DSLR. It's absolutely brilliant. So these kind of tools will come up now, and they're getting better and better. Then we have speech to text and text to speech. I'll give you a little example of how we are using it. Automated surgical planning is very much here. We've seen many, many examples of that today, wherein semi-automated surgical planning has been used. Dr. Sanjay also very elegantly demonstrated that some time ago. And of course, robotics. So where do you see the applications of AI? Now, very broadly speaking, if you just put it into all the various areas. Instead of me putting one slide and 10 references for each of these, I just put a number of bullet points there. Most important to me is medical imaging, which I think is the nearest frontier, because this is already coming into place where deep learning is being applied not only to diagnose osteoarthritis, which everybody seems to be doing. A number of papers are coming out in diagnosing osteoarthritis, but also most important in identifying some implants which we are otherwise not able to identify, especially in revision situations. So we also have a paper in publication now along with Dr. Bagaria, where we have talked about identifying the manufacturer for hip implants from by using a transfer learning methodology. And there's some other work also going on that work. Implant design is another area where this number of, I heard this in a few talks today about the amount of data being churned out by the use of robotics and navigation. Now, this has created a huge data repository for us. And I see these becoming something like digital twins, wherein we can create a model, a huge statistical model. What was traditionally being used by, large number of CT scans are used today to design our implants. We could be using digital twins of joints with the humongous amount of data that we have now to actually design an implant and even to prognosticate on a given procedure. So predictive analytics is next where it comes in. Can you predict which patient is going to be good for a daycare? Can you predict which patient is going to stay for 5 days? Can you predict which patient is more likely to give you a bad PROM? Now, these kind of predictive analytics are now very much possible. And rehabilitation is already a space where we are using a lot of data. So you can probably prescribe the right kind of exercise. We have some work on that to patients based on their personality types, on their ability to tolerate exercise. So all that can also be done with the help of a digital twin. Now, long-term follow-ups. Can we use medical imaging and deep learning to actually follow up these implants? Can there be an automated system wherein an automated text goes out to a patient, get an X-ray done, they upload the X-ray comes into the registry, is auto-analyzed, and if there is a problem, there is a radiolucent line, an automated text goes out to the physician, keep a watch on this guy, and he goes into an indefinite follow-up. So these kind of things are now becoming possible, and even with this very, very rough overview, the possibilities are immense. But where are we running into trouble? We are running into trouble because there is something called the black box of artificial intelligence, wherein we do not know how it takes a decision. And if we know how it takes a decision, if we can map out every part of how it makes a decision, then it no longer is deep intelligence, it no longer is deep learning, then it becomes a rule-based approach. So some kind of explainability is being brought into it. So that is called generative explainable AI. And that might help us in some of our decision-making tools, which we are developing for the future. But as of now, nothing of this is clinical reality. And the most important part of it is in your training data sets, you put in garbage, you get garbage out. The principle of garbage in, garbage out is extremely important when it comes to deep learning algorithms. We find papers like this now coming out more and more often. We published in 2019 on AI and ML in orthopedics in the Indian 2019 end. At that time, we hardly got references on the subject. But today the paper is getting cited twice a month. And we are seeing a large number of papers coming out using patient for forecasting, here applications for fracture detection, implant size predictions, and various other aspects of arthroplasty as well as orthopedics. This is some of our work from Tata Consultancy Services. We used a deep learning contextual network to automatically identify skeletal landmarks on X-rays. And we have extended it to 3D CTs of the hip as well as to cardiac MRIs as of now. So we have created a UX or a UI, that is a user interface, wherein you can directly select the landmarks you want, import the image, and you can automatically annotate that. We are also extending this to videos for automatic annotation of videos. So this has been the first requirement for training a machine learning imaging algorithm is a good annotation. So we developed this for that purpose, and we have also patented it. We also used a simple wristwatch, that is an Apple Watch, worn on the wrist to detect shoulder motion. to classify shoulder motion and to measure shoulder motion, all the three. And this is done using a machine learning algorithm, which we trained using a data set, which we created using a protocol ourselves. And this also we went ahead and patented it. We are able to recognize abduction, flexion, and extension with no additional inputs required. So that was done for rehabilitation purposes for total shoulder arthroplasty. We also used a simple IMU for the very same purpose. And this intermediate paper, which you can see walking pole gait, this is an example of how a digital twin model can be used to predict gait patterns following replacement. So this was just an experimental thing. And the other paper here, which is sepsis prediction, is actually using trending data in the ICU of a patient with possible sepsis, how you can predict sepsis up to 6 hours in advance of the actual event by simply using vital parameters and basic investigation data. So this was in response to a PhysioNet challenge a couple of years ago. This is just a little example of what work we are doing. It's not necessarily the complete list, but we are exploring various aspects of applying deep learning in the life sciences. Now, coming to the patient-reported outcome measures, I'll stay brief on this. These were allowed to bring in a different context to what we actually understand. Today, we heard multiple speakers talking about 20%, 15% dissatisfaction rate after knee arthroplasty, which I have been reading since I was a student in the early 90s. And I still am hearing the same statement, though at that time we had 3 blocks for cutting the distal femur and 2 blocks for cutting the proximal tibia. Today, we've got robots doing the same job, but still we are hearing 15 to 20%. So what has changed? What we need to understand is that there is something beyond surgical technique, environment, the implant, the geometry of the implant, the technology, and various steps that you do that influences a patient outcome. What looks perfect and we record it as a perfect knee score does not necessarily generate a perfect PROM, a very satisfied patient. So these PROM measures are coming in as the value-based care kicks in more and more today. So they are using, but they are very inconsistently used across geographies. For example, in India, we don't use them. We are not much concerned beyond what the patient comes and tells us. We are not really using any PROMs, not at least in a planned manner. Registries are now slowly gearing up to collect PROMs, but that is again a humongous exercise because of the very technical difficulty of collecting it from the patients directly. There is more value to PROMs than the subjective evaluation of joint score. The certain joint scores themselves, which can be administered by patients, can be used for PROMs. But the basic idea, in my opinion, of a PROM that it should be simple. How were you feeling the last 1 month with respect to your knee? That's all there should be. There shouldn't be more than that. Otherwise, it becomes again a complex exercise. So there are multiple factors which influence PROMs, and we decided to take a closer look at it. So we engaged in a design thinking exercise with, along with our behavioral sciences research team in Tata Consultancy Services and a service design team. And we interviewed a large number of orthopedic surgeons, a large number of patients who underwent knee replacement, anywhere from 6 months to 2 years prior to the interview. These people were interviewed in English. We specifically sought out people who could speak English because we did not want to translate. And we came out with this white paper on reimagining patient experience using service design methodology as well as behavioral sciences in the background. And the basic premise was that the patients have certain number of expectations, their lifestyle, their socioeconomic factors, everything affects the outcomes. Now, this paper is available on tcs.com for reading. It's definitely there on the website. It's called Reimagining Patient Care. You can please read it. So I'm just giving a short summary. What we tried to leverage over here was stress, anxiety, depression, and heightened expectations beyond the realities. All of these affect what the patients perceive as success from joint replacement. So if you can handle expectations and stress and anxiety on the go, then it would be a win-win for everybody. So this is not substituting for surgical care. So what we have come out of with a solution, which includes comprehensive rehabilitation as well as on-the-go care of the behavioral aspects of the patient also. And to the best of our knowledge, there isn't anything of this sort out there right now. And we are in the process of just finishing the solutioning and starting a clinical trial of this particular solution. And this is a little example of how we went about the ideation for this. And this actually includes two deep learning algorithms. Two NLP algorithms. The first NLP algorithm is for detecting speech to anxiety from speech. That is for the patient's oral journaling. Second is to pick up stress and depression and anxiety from textual notes which they type into the phone. And there is a mental health app which is proprietary to our organization called TAPI, which is integrated into this, which also gives some kinds of interventions like laughing exercises, smiling exercises, some small games which can help relieve stress and anxiety. This is integrated along with gait analysis as well as range of motion analysis, exercise videos, etc., which is routine and part of connected health follow-up for a joint replacement. So that was our approach to patient-related outcome measures, and I thank you for your time.